Welcome to this explainer. I'm super excited to have you here today. We're going to take a really fascinating journey into the absolute bedrock of modern software. We're pulling back the curtain on a tech ecosystem so massive and honestly so pervasive that it silently powers everything from your favorite mobile apps to high-frequency trading platforms all the way to space exploration systems. Get ready because we are looking under the hood of Java.
To kick things off, let's look at a pretty fun juxtaposition. On the left side here, we have Java, the incredibly beautiful Indonesian island. It sits at roughly 7 degrees south, 110 degrees east. A very real, physical place with a rich history. But on the right, we have Java, the programming language. Now, born about 31 years ago, this one obviously isn't made of volcanic rock or rainforests. It's built from billions of lines of code. Yet, much like a densely populated island, it hosts this sprawling, incredibly vibrant global tech ecosystem that has literally reshaped our digital world.
So you might be wondering, how did a language created back in 1995 become so ubiquitous today? Well, it all boils down to one foundational philosophy, WORA, write once, run anywhere. Before Java came along, developers had to painstakingly rewrite and recompile their code for every single type of computer and operating system out there. It was a huge headache. Java completely shattered that barrier. It promised that you could write your code just one single time, and it would seamlessly run on Windows, Mac, Linux, basically any platform that supported Java. It was a revolutionary idea that just supercharged software development globally.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the Java phenomenon. Then we'll do a complete ground-up teardown of the engine itself, covering the JVM architecture, memory organization, and the execution engine. And finally, we'll check out the modern upgrades introduced in JDK 23.
All right, Section 1, the Java phenomenon. Let's get right into it.
Let's take a quick look at the incredible scale of this language. Originally designed by James Gosling and now stewarded by Oracle, Java was built from the ground up to be high-level, object-oriented, and, this is crucial, memory-safe. But what really makes it a phenomenon isn't just the syntax, it's the massive ecosystem around it. We're talking enterprise-grade library support. Think of endless Apache projects or the wildly popular Spring framework. Plus, it's backed by an extensive global training infrastructure. From university courses to specialized boot camps, there's a literal army of developers out there who speak Java natively.
Okay, Section 2, inside the JVM architecture.
To truly appreciate Java, we've got to transition from that high-level ecosystem down into the actual core engine making it all happen, the JVM, or Java Virtual Machine. To make that write once, run anywhere dream a reality, Java doesn't compile directly to machine code for just one processor. Instead, it compiles into an intermediate state called bytecode. The JVM is basically a virtual computer running inside your actual computer that speaks this bytecode. As you can see here, it relies on three main subsystems: the class loader up top, the memory areas in the middle, and the execution engine down at the bottom.
Let's start at the top with the class loader subsystem. I like to think of this as the loading dock and assembly line of our engine, working in three distinct steps. First is loading, where it grabs the compiled class files and brings their binary data into the system. Next up is linking. Here, the bytecode verifier acts like a quality assurance inspector, checking that the code is structurally sound and safe while prepping memory. Finally, initialization, where static variables are assigned their actual real-world values. This whole assembly line guarantees the code is perfectly prepped before it ever even runs.
Moving right along to Section 3, JVM Memory Organization.
So, once the code is loaded and prepped, it needs a place to live, right? What's absolutely fascinating here is how the JVM acts like a highly organized warehouse. It doesn't just toss all your data into a messy pile. Instead, it meticulously partitions its memory based on what the data actually does and who needs access to it. It keeps distinct compartments for shared data, and then separate compartments, like stack frames, assigned to individual execution threads.
Let's rapidly break down what these compartments hold. The method area stores your class-level data, basically the blueprints. The heap area, that's your main warehouse floor. It's shared memory used for dynamic object allocation. So if you create a new object in Java, boom, it lives in the heap. But then we have thread-specific memory. The Java stacks hold local variables and method calls for each individual thread, kind of like a worker's personal clipboard. The PC registers keep track of the exact instruction a thread is currently executing. And finally, the native method stacks are reserved for those times when Java needs to talk directly to C or C++ code. It is just a beautifully organized system.
Now for Section 4, the execution engine. With our code perfectly organized, we are finally ready for action. This right here is the true powerhouse of the JVM. The execution engine takes that intermediate bytecode we talked about earlier and translates it into the native machine code that your specific underlying hardware can actually execute. It features 3 critical components working in total harmony: the interpreter, the JIT compiler, and the garbage collector.
Let's look at how these 3 build an incredibly efficient system. The interpreter is your quick starter. It reads and executes bytecode line by line. It gets going fast, but, it can drag on repetitive tasks. That is exactly where the JIT, or just-in-time compiler, steps in. The JIT compiler spots code that runs frequently and compiles it down to highly optimized native machine code on the fly. It's a massive performance boost. Meanwhile, the garbage collector is your background cleanup crew. It automatically reclaims memory from objects in the heap that are no longer being used, preventing memory leaks and guaranteeing that famous Java memory safety.
Which brings us to Section 5, new upgrades in JDK 23.
Now that we deeply understand the fundamental architecture of the engine, let's shift gears to the cutting-edge present. Looking at this timeline, it's clear Java is not some static ancient language. From Lambda expressions in JDK 8, to the massive module system overhaul in JDK 9, to the modern networking clients in JDK 11, the platform is in a constant state of evolution. It continuously gets major overhauls to handle modern computing demands, leading us straight into the architectural leaps of JDK 23.
And JDK 23 brings some serious, heavy-hitting performance optimizations meant for scalable, enterprise-level apps. First up is Project Loom, introducing lightweight virtual threads. This radically simplifies how you write concurrent applications, meaning servers can handle millions of simultaneous transactions without crashing. Huge game changer. Next is the FFM API, which finally gives Java a highly efficient, safe way to interact with native C and C++ libraries. And for the data scientists out there, the Vector API taps into specialized CPU hardware to significantly accelerate high-performance scientific computing and complex data processing.
The crucial takeaway is captured perfectly in this quote. Java isn't just resting on a 30-year legacy. By continually upgrading the core engine, enhancing expressiveness, and stripping away tedious boilercode code, Java is actively adapting. It's fighting and succeeding at remaining highly competitive and relevant in today's insanely fast-paced, cloud-native tech landscape. All of this leaves us with a truly exciting prospect. We've seen how beautifully the JVM's architecture handles memory and execution, and how JDK 23 pushes those boundaries even further. So as Java relentlessly evolves this engine, embracing virtual threads and advanced memory management, what will the next 30 years of write once, run anywhere actually look like? It's a fascinating question and one I highly encourage you to explore. Thank you so much for joining me today on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.